Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me? I have lag.
Yeah, I think I'm all set. So I need to make sure I have good Wi-Fi.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. All right. So I think we can now start since we're 5 minutes past time. My name is Cynthia Kamau. I'm part of the GDG Nairobi team, and with me is Wayne, who's a GDE for Angular, and he's going to be taking us through Gemini fundamentals with Angular. So I'm going to hand it over to Wayne, who's going to conduct the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing great. As she has mentioned, my name is Wen Kakuo, and I also work with Cynthia at UG Nairobi as one of the co-organizers. Apart from that, I also wear many hats, which I'll definitely mention to you in a few minutes. But overall, I work mostly with communities, and I'm someone who's really interested in sharing knowledge, and in this case, sharing knowledge about Angular. Today's session is going to be about how to integrate, Gemini API into your web applications. And in this case, we'll be working mostly with Angular. So if you're someone who's an Angular enthusiast or someone who's already done Angular and interested to see how they can play around with Gemini APIs, I think this session is for you. So let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, I think we're all good to go. If the screen can be brought up, oh, great. Thank you. So, yes, so as I mentioned, today's session is going to be about Gemini AI with the Angular applications. And I think most of you have already gone through quite a lot of tutorials with GDG Nairobi as well, WTM Nairobi. You've gone through sessions in which you're told how to integrate Gemini AI into different platforms. For those who are mobile developers, I think you've seen how that works. For those who work mostly with let's say just backend developers who build API endpoints. I've also been taught how to do that. So in this session, it's just going to be about Gemini for the web, and in this case, with Angular. So yeah, as you were told, as I mentioned earlier, my name is Wen Kakuo. I'm a front-end engineer by profession. I work for a company called Sky Garden. This is an e-commerce application or website that we have whereby people get to sell products online, and of course, as customers, we get to buy. So if you haven't checked it out, just type in sky.garden and you should be able to check it out. And yeah, I work mostly with Angular at work, but also outside here, I also do a lot of Angular stuff with regards to communities. As I mentioned, I'm also a GDE for the Angular framework, and as well as I also lead a community called Angular Kenya, which is just for people who are interested in learning more about Angular. So if you're someone who's interested in learning about Angular, please be sure to just search for Angular Kenya. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. We usually have sessions, and in case you'd like to know, bits and pieces about Angular, please do check them out when you get the time. Apart from that, I am also a lead for GDG Pwani, which is a GDG community based here in the coastal region of Kenya, and also a co-organizer of GDG Nairobi. Yes, and one of the biggest hats I also wear is being a Google developer expert for Angular. So more or less just spreading the gospel of Angular. Yes, so those are my socials. If you just search for me at Wade_Gakuo, whether on LinkedIn or well, just LinkedIn, just search for Wayne Gakuo on Twitter at Wayne_Gakuo, and also on Instagram. And of course, if you like to check out what I do on GitHub, just search for Wayne Gakuo and you should be able to see. So yeah, so just gonna get started on that. So Gemini AI for developers, right? I think most of you have already worked with the Gemini AI platform or just gemini.google.com, whereby you just go in there and interact with the Gemini, ask questions, how to write your email, how to con- how to compose a poem, or how to do maybe um, composing of a song and all that. I think you've mostly played around with it. You've also generated images with it, and also now you have the ability to even integrate Gemini into your web applications, right? And since Google had announced that Gemini AI had come to life, they've opened it up, or they've opened up the API resources for free. And this, of course, it has different tiers, but for the free API tier, mostly for developers who are interested to play around, tinker around with the Gemini API, you're now able to use it in your applications or in your project. So how do you get your API key? The first step is really go to ai.google.dev. In here, you're going to be shown this very beautiful UI, the very beautiful page whereby it tells you to just get your API key in Google AI Studio, or if you're someone who wanted to first of all jump into the documentation, you're also provided with that link to that. So just click on read API docs so that you can be able to go into the documentation of Gemini AI. Or if you're someone who's already done that and you just want to get started with the APIs, just click on Get API in Google AI Studio, and you're going to be taken to a particular page whereby it's kind of like a console of sorts, whereby you're able to interact with Google Gemini AI Studio, or as well as also generate your API keys. So just something to note before we move on. There's a pricing difference, or the different tiers. In this case, we have the free of charge, this pay as you go. And one of the things to also take note of is the rate limits for the different Gemini API versions. As when we started, we had the Gemini 1.0 Pro or 1.0 Pro, and now we have, which is currently in preview, is the Gemini 1.5 Pro. So for the Gemini 1.0 Pro or 1.0 Pro, for the free of charge, we have the rate limit of 15 requests per minute. So that means whenever you do the request, you have to make sure that they're within 15-minute limit, or if not, it's gonna be a bit laggy. So you have to wait until a minute so that it can respond. And then also for making use of it in terms of requests per day is 1,500. And of course, it's free. Everything is free. But then also there's the pay as you go, which will be coming in May 2024. And this is for Gemini 1.0. For Gemini 1.5, we have 2 requests per minute. And I think more or less is because 1.5 is supercharged, and it's so robust, so that it has to make sure that it balances out in terms of the use and also producing great results. So the rate limit for the Gemini 1.5 Pro for the free tier is 2 requests per minute, and for the requests per day is about 50 requests per day. And I think you'll find that there's a difference between well, there's a bit of a difference between the tokens per minute. For 1.0 was about 32,000 tokens per minute. So think of tokens as more or less like context, because when you are asking, for example, for, let's say, you want to ask Gemini to summarize for you, for example, a particular article that has been written, or a letter that has been sent to you, right? What you just need to do is just copy and paste those contents, or just drop that content into Gemini, and it's going to do that. So how does Gemini API ensure that it takes note of what you've asked it, and as well as take note of the context that it's going to be providing insights on? So this is where the tokens come in, whereby it approximates around 4 characters is 1 token. So it goes through your document that you've provided, or even just maybe the text that you've pasted into Gemini, and it makes sure that it's within that range of 32,000 tokens per minute. If it's over 32,000, it will not take into consideration the one that's remaining. So it has to be within 32,000, which I feel like it's a bit doable for small scale use. And the beauty of it right now is that with the 1.5, this 32,000 has been bumped up to 128,000, and currently in preview it's about 1 million tokens per minute. So this means that you can even, I'm going to play some video over here. And this video just shows the comparison between the different generative AIs that we have. And as you can see, with the Gemini 1.1.0 Pro is 32K. The GPT-4 Turbo is 128K. Cloud 2.1 is 200K, and now for Gemini 1.5 Pro is 1 million tokens. So this consists of things like a 1 hour video, 11 hours of audio, or podcast, for example, 30,000 lines of code, or 700,000 words. So this means that you can even give Gemini 1.5 Pro even more of data so that it can take into consideration when it's coming up with the results that you need. And this is mostly, I think for 1.5 Pro is mostly for people who are doing research, right? For those who like to, maybe let's say analyze a huge chunk of data, this is a good start for you, or this is a good model for you to use, so that you can be able to at least get um, good good insights coming in from the information that you've shared with Gemini, and so that at least you can also save time to having to read through a lot of, let's say, if it's a paper, or if it's you need to listen to 11 hours worth of audio, and all that. So Google Gemini is going to do that for you. I'm gonna play for you a series of videos, so I hope that you get to listen to this. And I'm gonna mute myself right now so that you all can listen to this. So let me know if you get to hear this or not. It's going to
This
be
is a
videos
demo of
about
long
tokens.
context understanding, an experimental feature in our newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through a screen recording of example prompts using a 402-page PDF of the Apollo 11 transcript, which comes out to almost 330,000 tokens. We started by uploading the Apollo PDF into Google AI Studio and asked, find 3 comedic moments, list quotes from the transcript, and emoji. This screen capture is sped up. This timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt, and keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model responded with 3 quotes, like this one from Michael Collins. I'll bet you a cup of coffee on it. If we go back to the transcript, we can see the model found this exact quote and extracted the comedic moment accurately. Then we tested a multimodal prompt. We gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what moment is this? The model correctly identified it as Neil's first steps on the moon. Notice how we didn't explain what was happening in the drawing. Simple drawings like this are a good way to test if the model can find something based on just a few abstract details. And for the last prompt, we asked the model to cite the timecode of this moment in the transcript. Like all generative models, responses like this won't always be perfect. They can sometimes be a digit or 2 off. But let's look at the model's response here. And when we find this moment in the transcript, we can see that this timecode is correct. These are just a few examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million multimodal tokens in Gemini 1.5 Pro.
So as you can see with that particular video, it talks about context, token context. And in this case, it was a document worth 326,000 tokens. And they were using the Gemini 1.5 Pro model. And as you can see, it can take a huge chunk of data and just in a few seconds or if in a few minutes. And as they've mentioned in the video, it can vary depending on analyzing and also the chunk of data. It also and then later on provides you the insight that you require. So for example, you tell them, like in this case, it was asking them to provide a particular case scenario whereby there was something funny during those conversations, and it does that for you. So again, just be mindful of that, that it can take a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes depending on the data, and as well as just trying to Gemini just trying to make sense of that data that you provide. Okay, I'm going to show you another video. Just a minute.
This is a demo of long context understanding, an experimental feature in our newest model.
This is another video, and this is going to be about a movie, and which is 696,417 worth of tokens. So just listen in.
This is a demo of long context understanding, an experimental feature in our newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through a screen recording of example prompts using a 44-minute Buster Keaton film, which comes out to over 600,000 tokens. In Google AI Studio, we uploaded the video and asked, find the moment when a piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket and tell me some key information on it with the timecode. This screen capture is sped up, and this timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt. And keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model gave us this response, explaining that the piece of paper is a pawn ticket from Goldman & Company pawnbrokers with the date and cost, and it gave us this timecode 1201. When we pulled up that timecode, we found it was correct. The model had found the exact moment the piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket, and it extracted text accurately. Next, we gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what is the timecode when this happens? This is an example of a multimodal prompt where we combine text and image in our input. The model returned this timecode, 1534. We pulled that up and found that it was the correct scene. Like all generative models, responses vary and won't always be perfect. But notice how we didn't have to explain what was happening in the drawing. Simple drawings like this are a good way to test if the model can find something based on just a few abstract details, like it did here. These are just a couple examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million multimodal tokens in Gemini 1.5 Pro.
Right. As you can see now, that was also for movies. And maybe for those developers out there, they might be asking, so what if I want like a huge code base to be analyzed so that I can be able to, maybe find, or maybe just want Gemini to provide for me a function or a method to do a particular task. So let's check that out. So this is a code. This is a chunk of code that is approximately 816,767 worth of context tokens. And you'll get to understand or you get to listen in to why they wanted to do something with the code. So let's listen in.
This is a demo of long context understanding, an experimental feature in our newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through some example prompts using the Three.js example code, which comes out to over 800,000 tokens. We extracted the code for all of the Three.js examples and put it together into this text file, which we brought into Google AI Studio over here. We asked the model to find 3 examples for learning about character animation. The model looked across hundreds of examples and picked out these 3. One about blending skeletal animations, one about poses, and one about morph targets for facial animations. All good choices based on our prompt. In this test, the model took around 60 seconds to respond to each of these prompts. But keep in mind that latency times might be higher or lower, as this is an experimental feature we're optimizing. Next, we asked, what controls the animations on the littlest Tokyo demo? As you can see here, the model was able to find that demo, and it explained that the animations are embedded within the GLTF model. Next, we wanted to see if it could customize this code for us, so we asked, show me some code to add a slider to control the speed of the animation. Use that kind of GUI the other demos have. This is what it looked like before on the original Three.js site. And here's the modified version. It's the same scene, but it added this little slider to speed up, slow down, or even stop the animation on the fly. It used this GUI library the other demos have, set a parameter called animation speed, and wired it up to the mixer in the scene. Like all generative models, responses aren't always perfect. There's actually not an init function in this demo like there is in most of the others. However, the code it gave us did exactly what we wanted. Next, we tried a multimodal input by giving it a screenshot of one of the demos. We didn't tell it anything about this screenshot and just asked where we could find the code for this demo, seen over here. As you can see, the model was able to look through the hundreds of demos and find the one that matched the image. Next, we asked the model to make a change to the scene, asking, how can I modify the code to make the terrain flatter? The model was able to zero in on one particular function called generate height and showed us the exact line to tweak. Below the code, it clearly explained how the change works. Over here in the updated version, you can see that the terrain is indeed. We tried one more code modification task using this 3D text demo over here. We asked, I'm looking at the text geometry demo and I want to make a few tweaks. How can I change the text to say goldfish and make the mesh materials look really shiny and metallic? You can see the model identified the correct demo and showed the precise lines in it that need to be tweaked. Further down, it explained these material properties, metalness and roughness, and how to change them to get a shiny effect. You can see that it definitely pulled off the task and the text looks a lot shinier now. These are just a couple examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million multimodal tokens in Gemini 1.5 Pro.
Great. And that's the end of this videos. So this was just to give you a glimpse of the power of Gemini, and in this case, Gemini 1.5 Pro, which provides you with an avenue or a platform whereby you can generate responses based on the tokens, and in this case, 1 million tokens, context tokens, because think of AI or Gen AI in this case, and in this case, we're talking about Gemini AI, as it needs to understand, first of all, the context in which you want to ask them a question on. So that's why we're usually told that, I think right now we're told like the next frontier is going to be prompt engineering, whereby you have to provide a bit of context for the Gen AI, generative AI, whatever generative AI platform you're using, to be able to give you like really good answers or really good responses. So in this case now, Gemini 1.5 now provides you with 1 million tokens worth of context tokens, in which you can provide a huge chunk of data, ask it to do something for you, and it's going to do that for you, as long as it's given that particular context. And in this case, 1 million worth of context. Right, so I'm just gonna go next to it. And by the way, all this, you can be able to try it out today, anytime that you want. Just go to ai.google.dev, go to the API Studio or AI Studio, and you should be able to work around with this. If you're someone who likes to fine tune these models, there's also a platform, or there's also a place where you can be able to do that right inside the AI Studio. So, go out there and give it a try. And the beauty of it is that with the AI Studio, whatever you're going to be using in there, it's going to be free. It's only when you use the API keys, that's when it's going to be a bit different. But of course, Google will always provide you with information with regards to if there's anything that's going to change in terms of pricing, and all that. But for now, go out there, play around with the AI Studio, and be creative with it. I'm just gonna go back to our slides. Yeah, so this is AI Studio. This is how it looks like. If you look on the left-hand side, we have a section for API keys. If you want to create a new chat, for example, you're able to do that. It has a section for if you want to, let's say you want to drop a document from your Google Drive, you're able to do that. Everything is already here. It also has some links, for example, to the Discord community in case you'd like to interact with the community members as well. And also, if you look on the right-hand side, you have the places whereby you can change the model between 1.5 Pro or 1.0 or whichever model that you want to use. And also, you can be able to go to the advanced settings, just fine tune it to the most definite details that you want. So if you're someone who is good with that, you should be able to do that. And if you look at the bottom on the preview part of the preview section, this is the number of tokens that it can allow. And in this case is 1,048,576 tokens. And of course, I think with the newer versions that come in, maybe 2.0, 2.5, or whatever newer version that is going to come out, you're always going to be having more tokens being allowed to be provided to the Gemini AI. So as for now, you are going to make use of the AI Studio, Gemini AI, using 1 million tokens. So provided with those context tokens, and it's going to be able to give you the data or the information that you need. So away from the theory part of it, away from AI Studio, let's see how we can be able to do this in our Angular application. How can we integrate Gemini AI into our Angular project? Again, this I'm trying to assume here that you already have some basic knowledge in Angular, but if you don't have, don't worry. I have linked some resources at the end of this session, or at the end of this presentation, whereby you can be able to get started with the Angular. So currently, Angular is at Angular 17 or Angular version 17. So whenever you create your new Angular application, it's going to be a standalone application. So it's not going to have ng modules, but don't worry about that. Again, that's a story for another day. But if not, if you don't understand what that is, please do take some time and just go through some articles talking about Angular v17 or Angular standalone. So with the commands to generate Angular application doesn't change, it's still the same thing. And in this case, we're going to generate an application using the ng command, which is ng new Google Gemini Pro AI. That is the name of our project. And immediately you're done with that, you are going to install the Gemini library. The beauty of it is Google or Gemini AI creators already have the npm package ready for you. So what you just need to do is just install that package, whether you use npm or you use yarn. So just install the package at Google//generative AI. So again, whenever you are building stuff with Angular, whenever you install something, there's always changes made into your package.json file. So make sure that you're able to see that in your Angular application. And then the next or the last part, and which is the most important part of it, is whenever you are done with installing your Gemini AI package, you want to make use of it. So how do you do that? So inside our component, which I will show you, don't worry about this, there's a demo for it. Inside the demo, or inside this application, you go into the component and call on that particular class, or call on Google Generative AI, because you want to make use of it. So after that, we just create an instance of that class, which is imported from the library we just installed. And then from there is when we create that instance of a class, the Google Generative AI class allows you to provide some bit of parameters. And in this case, it gives you the parameter to import, not to import, but to put in is the API key. In this case, I have stored this API key in a utility file, or in a secure file. In this case, it was a utility file, but if you're someone who is interested in doing this in the environment file, you can also do so. But just bear in mind that with the new Angular v17, you don't have environments file by default, so you need to generate them. So just generate them by ng generate environments, and this is mostly going to be in version 16 plus and above, or 16 and above. So yeah, with that, just put in the API key that you've been provided with, and then create that instance of it. And then after that, we get to choose a model that we're going to use, and we choose it by calling the get generative AI model method on the instance that we just created. So in this case, I would like to generate text outputs from our text-only input. Remember, there's also the multimodal input, whereby you can provide both text and image. But in this case, we're just interested in text-only input. So we're just going to use the Gemini Pro model. And I've given also some bit of context over here that for text image input, which is multimodal, you can use the Gemini Pro Vision. This was way before we had the Gemini 1.5 Pro, but now with Gemini 1.5 Pro latest, it can also allow the text image input, which is more or less right now a bit of default when you generate your API key. So, when you generate the API key, it's not really leaning towards a particular model. So you need to provide that model that you want to make use of in your application. So in this case, we want the Gemini Pro. You can use the Gemini 1.5 Pro latest to make use of the 1 million context that you've been provided with. But right now it's still in preview. So when it's out in production, you are going to be able to use it. But then again, take note of the rate limits that you have per day, per minute, and also per day. So just take note of that. So we're done with creating an instance of the Google Generative AI. We've been able to get hold of the API key, and as well as we've also been able to get hold of the model that we want to use. So in our Angular application, we're just going to provide a bit of, let's just say, a starting code, right? And this is just basically an input whereby the user just provides information or whatever the prompt that they want to use, and also a button attached to an event listener. And this event listener is just a method that gets the information from the Gemini API. So this is a method that you've created, and when the user adds the prompt and clicks on generate button, it calls the function that we've just created and then calls the Gemini API. And with this, simply with our model that we just created, we need to call the generate content. And when in this generate content, what we do is usually pass the prompt that the user has provided, and we then return the results, or of course error out. If so, make sure that you're able to provide good error message and clear messaging for that. And then of course we control this, or we provide this in our UI based on the new control differ control flow, or also the differ blocks that we have in the Angular v17. I know it might look a bit gibberish for most who have maybe not interacted with v17, but then this is something that is currently available. So basically what you're just saying here is, of course, it's a bit of text, asking the user to provide the prompt, and then of course show the results when the result is ready. If not, it needs to hold on or just provide like a text. In this case, it's going to be the waiting for your prompt. And whenever it's loading, just provide some bit of messaging. It's a bit crude right now, so just bear with me. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you the code. So here we are. So this is our Angular application that we've just created. I've already installed it because of time. You know how it is sometimes when you create new Angular applications, it can take a bit of time. So we already have our Angular app created, and as well as, let me just zoom in just a little bit. Give me a minute. I know right now there's someone here say that, Wayne, how is it that you don't know how to make use of the shortcuts for this? But I'm like, yeah, I don't really cram them. What I just do, like I only go for them when I need it. So that's why I don't know these things offhand. So I'm just gonna go to the font, and I'm gonna just increase it maybe a little bit. Actually, let me just go to the appearance side because it's gonna be a bit quicker. And I'm gonna do at 175%. Yeah, I think you can now see it well. Yeah, so here we have is just our HTML file. And in this case, our HTML file consists of a header, the label, and the input that we want to make use of, and our event listener, which is called the generate. If we look at the definition of it, this is it. It's what we had provided also in the slides. So this is a method that generates results from based on the user's prompt. So of course, because it's an asynchronous process, you need to attach the async await to it. So when you're defining that method, you start with the async before it, and then of course the name of your function or the name of your method, and then put it in a try catch block to ensure that you handle the error as well. And of course, you await on the result before moving on to the next step, which is now the response. And with that, you're able to now just take over the text, because when the data is returned to you, it's more or less kind of like in JSON format. So what you just need to do is you want to take the text, right? And with that, you're able to provide the result to the user or to the UI. In this case, this is our UI, and I'm just going to show you how that looks like. So this is our, I'm going to zoom in once again for everyone to see. Right, so here we are. So let's say we want to know more about Mombasa, right? Or let's just say, why do people love avocados, right? So don't worry about the UI. The UI doesn't look nice. This is of course for demo purposes, but of course you can generate beautiful UIs for such, which I will show you. It's something that I also did personally on a project. So click on generate, Right now, again, we don't have anything in place to show the loading state and the success state, but it's just something very simple, right? So in this case, now it says nutritional value, rich in healthy fats, blah, 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 and all that. So maybe one thing that you might notice is you're going to notice some bit of asterisks on some of these texts, maybe double asterisks, single asterisks, and all that. So something that I also personally learned is that whenever you get the data as text, you still have to format it because the data that you're going to get from Gemini API is in type Markdown. So what you just need to do is handle the Markdown data so that it can be shown to you, it can be displayed to the user in a more beautiful way because things like double text is actually a header, and then after that it needs to provide it needs to go to the next row or the next line so that it can show you the next text. So this is something that has to be handled by, if for example you're making use of something like Quill.js, it's going to be handling this for you in a beautiful way, which I'm going to share resources on it, on how to do that. But in the basic form, this is how you get your data. You provide the prompt, click on generate, and the UI is updated with the results that you provided with, right? So that's just something that you can make use of in your Angular application, right? It doesn't really have to be a large scale application. It could be maybe in a chatbot. But then again, take note of the rate limits because again, the rate limits are dependent on which model you use and which version you use, and as well as which tier you use. Do you use the free tier or do you use the pay as you go tier? That is dependent on how you're going to do it. Also, maybe the company wants a chatbot that is built on top of Gemini AI, right? You can feed it the 1 million worth of context with regards to the company, maybe some bit of documents with regards to the company, what it's all about, and then with that, maybe whenever a chat has been started, Gemini already has this information at the back of the head, like, oh, you actually want to know more about this company, this is what we do, this is what we offer, and all that. This is just different use cases that you can have. But basically, that's how it is. I'm going to show you the other project that I built. Just bear with me. Let me just save it. This was a personal project that I worked on, and it was more or less for me just trying to really learn how Gemini AI works. And I got some bit of assistance also from another GDE of Angular, who he even went ahead and even integrated Palm API. He integrated also he made use of the Google Vision Pro and all that. But in this case, for me, I just wanted the text one, text only input. So I'm just going to save this other one. So just bear with me. I'm gonna put in here the localhost. So because I'm already using the localhost 4200, I'm waiting for the app to tell me, okay, which one I should use. It says 10.118. So it's now loading. So I'm just going to show you side by side. So this is what we have for a very basic application. It doesn't have any beautiful stuff. The data has not been formatted well for the users to check it out. We're still waiting for our app to come up. Oh, there we are. So I'm just going to reduce this. I'm going to reduce the zoom so that at least it can look nice. So yeah, so I just asked, so we can ask Gemini anything. So maybe anyone in the chat, if you're in the chat, what question should we ask Gemini? I'll wait. Just provide your question in the chat and I'm going to pick one. You can just provide in the comments any question that you may have. Doesn't have to be long, it could be something short. Anyone? Steps to being a GDE. All right. Thank you, Francis. Thank you very much. Let's ask Gemini that. So we can ask like, what are the steps to being a GDE? Just click on generate. And of course, this one I've built it with really nice UI. So of course you can be able to, you can fork this project. It's on GitHub and you can be able to use it. So yeah, so as you can see over here, we've been able to make sure we have it in a proper way for the UI to be able to display the results. So here it tells you the steps to become a Google developer expert, establish a proven track record, develop a strong Google Cloud profile. This is mostly for GDEs for the cloud. Submit a nomination, technical evaluation. These are some of the steps that you'd always be told with regards to becoming a GDE. So yeah, so really, really great question, Francis. Okay, Adair is asking, give a good recommendation for an ICT officer. Okay, let's ask Google that. Okay. Oh, Karani asked, will Arsenal win the Champions League? That's a trick question. Don't worry, we will ask Google about that. So yeah, so this is a recommendation. I presume maybe it was a recommendation later there, but Gemini has understood it's as you asking them or asking it about a recommendation later. Yeah, so this is some of the things that you can always add, for example, in your recommendation later. Yeah, so you can see, I think most of you have already used it and you've seen how powerful it is in providing you with, let's say, insights with regards to how to write an email, how to write a recommendation later, how to write a cover later, and this is just one of it. Yeah. All right, so let's ask Karani's question. Will Arsenal win the Champions League? I'm very interested in this answer as well. So let's see. Let's add in 2024. All right. Okay. So we're just gonna wait for Gemini to provide us with the answers. This will be an interesting one. Here we are. So Gemini says it's difficult to predict whether Arsenal will win the Champions League 2024. The Champions League is highly competitive, blah, 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 and many factors could affect Arsenal's chances. Here are some factors that could contribute to Arsenal's success in Champions League in 2024. Arsenal has a strong squad, a good mix of experience and youth, blah, blah, financial resource, lack of experience. Arsenal has not won a major trophy since 2017 and have not reached the final of the Champions League. So on six, the team may lack the experience and know-how to win the competition. Ouch. Sorry, Arsenal fans. Tough competition. The Champions League is a very competitive tournament, and Arsenal will have to face some of the best teams in Europe if they want to win it. Teams such as Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Man City are all likely to be strong contenders in 2024. Overall, it is difficult to say that Arsenal will win the Champions League in 2024. The team has the potential to win the competition, but they need to overcome some significant challenges. Well, Gemini has tried to be civil in terms of providing the answer. It doesn't want to pit one team against the other, so of course it's going to be a bit partial or impartial, and therefore I think this is something that Arsenal fans will maybe take solace in, because Gemini said like, oh yeah, you can actually win it, you just need to overcome some challenges. Anyway, as for me, as a Man United fan, I don't have any hopes for any cup this year, so I'll just be out there spectating or just watching all these matches. But thank you for the question. Maybe one more question. Anyone who has one more question, we can ask Gemini. One more question? One more question? For Arsenal fans, sorry about this. This is Gemini's opinions. These are not my opinions. This is Gemini opinion. It says that you really don't have the capability as of now, but it's possible. So all the best to all the Arsenal fans. Any additional question? Oh yeah, oh yeah. I hope so. I really hope that Man United wins the FA Cup. So yeah, right. Such a figure. Oh well. Today is the battle of the worst. So you don't know. We don't know. Okay. Batia is saying, give me a step-by-step process on how to deploy a model using Flask. Okay. We can ask Gemini that. Okay. There we go. So another thing that I also mentioned with regards to the Markdown is the importance of you being able to format it well for your users is because of this. Sometimes the data that comes in also in terms of code, and some of these tools, such as Quill.js, it provides you with that platform whereby you are able to really to beautifully display the information to your users. So as you can see over here, there's some bit of code, and it gives you the step-by-step process, right? So for step one, you create a Flask app. Start by creating the new Python file, such as app.py. I don't really know, so we're usually told that any response that you're given is take it a bit with a pinch of salt, but make sure you test it first. So I'm not a Python developer, so I don't really know much about this. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But yeah, maybe you've done this with Flask, so you can definitely let us know. It provides you with getting started with by creating the Flask app, loading the model that you're interested in, define the prediction routes, and then start the Flask server. And then, of course, deploy to Heroku. Maybe that's how it's done. But for anyone who is interested, I think this is an answer that has been provided. Yes. As Stephen is asking, you mentioned that there was a limit to the questions for the API. Is it per day or hour? So it's actually per minute and also per day. So I'm just going to go back to the slides. So if you're using the 1.5 Pro model, the rate limit is 2 requests per minute, because again, as I mentioned, 1.5 Pro is quite robust because it can process a huge chunk of data as well. It's a bit powerful. So I think that's why they reduced it to 2 requests per minute. If you're using 1.0, it's 15 requests per minute. And by the end of the day, maximum is 1,500. That is for 1.0. For 1.5, per minute is 2 requests, per day is 50 requests. And there's the pay as you go, which is going to be coming in on May 2nd, 2024. And of course, with that, you can have 2,000 requests per day for 1.5. So, and I think with time, of course, it's going to increase. So just be on the lookout for that. And of course, here it says like $7 per 1 million tokens. If you have like 1 million tokens already provided, it's going to be $7, or if more, of course, that is going to accumulate in your bill. And I think this is a message that was shared earlier this week, if I'm not wrong, by Google, was that if you have an API key that has been connected to a Google Cloud project, it's going to be subjected to billing. So if you're someone who has an API key or Gemini API key in a Google Cloud project, just take note of that. It's going to be accumulated. It's going to accumulate to your billing at the end of the month, but that is starting from May. Okay, Edina has another question, so we're just gonna ask that last question. So let's go to Gemini and ask the question. I hope, Stephen, I've answered your question. So Edina is asking, explain a relevant ethical decision making framework and identity, the steps involved in the framework. All right, let's see if Gemini will do that. Ooh, this is interesting. So yeah, so Gemini says ethical decision making framework, the 6-step model, identify the ethical dilemma, identify the stakeholders, identify ethical principles, develop decisions options, make a decision, implement and evaluate, and also have additional considerations. Edina, I'm not sure if maybe this is something that you wanted in terms of response, but this is what Gemini has given us. So as you can see, it has provided you with the steps as you've asked them to do, and as well as provide you with some bit of additional information. And I also wanted to show you in terms of the power of it also, in case you want to integrate the Gemini Vision Pro, which is a multimodal model or multimodal input model, which is you can provide text and image. So there's a very small project that we built that is myself, Wayne, and Edwin Mai. Edwin Mai is a GDE for the web, and we just built a very small demo to showcase the power of Gemini in a basic web application that is bare bones HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we just did something small for this demo, and maybe I'm just gonna ask a question. What is saponification? I liked this. I liked this topic when I was in high school. So please bear with me. Yeah. So in this case, we haven't really provided the UI for loading state again and all that because it was it was a demo. So you can always do that. So it says like in this case, saponification is a chemical reaction which esters react with alkali to form soap and alcohol. For the chemistry and nerds in the house, this one's for you. It is a base catalyzed hydrolysis reaction that takes place in an aqueous medium. Wow. Ooh, it even gives you the chemical compounds. Wow, this is interesting. Yeah, so as you can see, it's provided with not just text, but also the chemical equations and the reaction that comes with it. This is amazing. So yeah, this is just, again, this is the power of having this in your website, right? So I'm just gonna close this, and I'm gonna show you also for images. So I'm just gonna go ahead and choose 2 images, and I just want Gemini to provide me with the difference between those 2 images, right? I want something very small so that it can show me the difference between these 2. Again, we don't have a UI to show the loading state for this, but just bear with us. So I'm just gonna, so I provided it with 3 images. The first one was a screenshot of the RESPA limit. The other one was the Build Gemini screenshot, and another one was a poster for NG Kenya. By the way, for all the Angular nerds out there, if you are interested in learning more about Angular, we have an Angular Kenya conference coming up on the 6th of July, so be on the lookout for that. So so here it says the difference between the 2 pictures, which is the first 2, is a pay-as-you-go plan. The free plan has a limit of 2 requests per minute, blah, blah, blah. The free plan does not allow you to use prompts or responses to improve your products, while the pay-as-you-go plan does. Okay, it's a bit of a mix-up, but this is something that's got to do with the implementation. But in this case, you can see that you can provide it with 2 images in which you want them, let's say, for example, to provide you with insights, or just telling it like, okay, tell me the differences between these 2 images. So for the purpose of demo, I'm just going to refresh this and then do it again. In this case, we're going to choose 2 images. So let's just pick the Angular, the NG Kenya conf logo, and this 2 files. Let's wait for the response. Yeah, so it says the first image is of a website for a company called Gemini. The second image is of a music festival in Kenya. I don't understand why it says a music festival, but I think it's because it hasn't really gotten good context with regards to that particular image, because this was more of like a teaser poster. So that's why it's saying it's a musical festival. But no, this is an Angular festival. This is going to be an Angular conference that's going to be happening on the 6th of July this year. So that's the power of Gemini. If you'd like to know more about Gemini, or even just get to read more about Gemini, I've provided you all with a list of resources from which you can just take a read and read the article at number 4. That is the article that I was talking about, whereby there's another GD called Gerard built a fully functional web application that has both text and image inputs as well, also for voice. I think he also added for voice recognition. It's just mind-blowing what he did. And also just reading the article about Gemini 1.5 and the capabilities it has, and also learning about the models that are there and how you can make use of them. And also what number 7 is the web demo that we did, myself and Edwin Mae. So if you're someone who's want to think around, please do take note of that. And there's also just a slide for anyone who wants to get started with Angular. The first step is really downloading your Node.js. The second one is downloading your Angular CLI. And then just go ahead and create your new Angular project and just serve it. That's how you get started with it. But please do some bit more of reading if you're new to Angular, so that you can understand what is new and how you can get started with it. Make use of the Angular official YouTube channel. It has content with regards to what is new in Angular v17. It also has tutorials on how to get started with Angular, especially from version 16 and above. Yes, if you want to get access to these slides, just scan that QR code or just type in bit.ly/Gemini Angular, and you should be able to have access to it. And apart from that, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for being a really great audience. Thank you for the questions. And I hope that you go out there and start building stuff. Thank you. Back to you, Cynthia.
Thanks, Wayne, for that very insightful session. I'd like to thank the audience for your participation and to also encourage you to join our 2 follow-up sessions. So we'll be having another session next Thursday, and then we'll be having our final session on the 25th. So also be on the lookout for that. Yeah. Thank you and have a lovely night. Bye-bye. And thanks, Wayne, again.
Thank you.
All right. I will now end the live stream.